You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. What if we were to try to improve the public highway transportation system with toll vouchers or toll savings accounts? We could call them TSAs. And we could issue them to, 2% of the people. It happens to be that maybe 90% of the people who would take those toll vouchers or toll savings accounts have already been driving on toll roads. And what would you think if you lived in a district that didn't have a toll road and it was likely never to have one, and yet your tax dollars were going to be used to subsidize somebody's comfortable ride in their comfortable car from their comfortable suburban house on their toll road to their comfortable office building? I think that you would think that was not a very good idea, and yet here we are doing kind of a lot like that with our public education system, that we're going to give money to a very small percentage of the people to somehow improve public education overall, and I'm not buying it. So I'd like to examine a couple things that are clearly not true about the bill as presented. We've seen various iterations of education savings accounts and school vouchers over the last few years, but this one in particular is the one that's on the floor, and I want to talk about that. Some things that aren't true about it. It's not about parent choice. It's not about parent choice of schools. Again, only 2% of today's public school children are expected to make the move from public school to private school. So 98% of the people aren't making a choice. 95%, this is according to the analysis we have on the bill, 95% of the kids who will receive the vouchers are already in private schools. Where's the choice? It is not about school choice. So that's what it's not about. It's also not about saving kids from failing public schools. Again, 2% of the students in today's public schools are going to wind up in the private schools. So maybe it's about 2% of the kids being saved from public schools. Maybe there's better ways we could save them, but let's grant that. 98%, that can't really be what the bill is about. I just generally don't say the bill is about something that 98% it isn't. Finally, it's not about money following, I'm sorry, I want to go back about it not being saving kids from public schools. This bill has an income threshold of 500% of the federal poverty level. That's about $160,000 a year. Ask ourselves, how many kids whose parents are earning $160,000 a year are finding themselves in failing public schools today? How many kids whose parents are earning $30,000 a year are in failing public schools today? If it was really about pulling kids out of failing public schools, it would not be aimed at more affluent families. And finally, about the money following the student. As I mentioned, 95% of the students and 90% of the money is going to go to kids already in already in private schools or homeschooled. You can't follow the kid. The money can't follow the kid if the kid is already there. So let's look at some things that are true about this bill. It is true that school vouchers and education savings accounts have been a years-long campaign that represented to the public that was about the very three things that I just explained that it isn't. It's been represented to the public this is about school choice. It's been represented to the public, it's about the money following the student. It's been represented to the public that this is about saving kids from private schools, and we just established that it didn't do that. What it does instead is redistribute wealth to a large degree from suburban areas and rural areas to urban areas where there are private schools, and moves money into private schools, 75% of which in Texas, 75% of private schools in Texas are religiously affiliated. Many of them are fantastic schools. But make no mistake, we are moving public tax dollars into private religious schools, which should give us some constitutional concerns. Historically, we haven't done it, and that's a reason. Finally, Senator Creighton, I think you've made a good case that this bill does not destroy the public education system. I agree with you. It's 2% of kids. It's not that much money. It's not taking 95% of the money out of the public schools. It's really doesn't do a whole lot of anything except take public tax dollars and transfer them to private schools for kids and parents who are already using the private schools, many of whom are making a pretty good income. So I want the record to be clear what this bill is and isn't. I know there are good intentions by the bill. I know there's some analysis behind it about what effects it might have. I actually wanted to challenge one of those. Senator West and Senator Creighton had a discussion about racial disparities that may be associated with this bill and other bills like it. Senator Creighton and many people who've worked hard on this bill, I know you've reviewed studies of other states' experiences. The state of Florida was cited for its success at promoting non-Anglo students. If you look at Florida's income threshold to qualify for an education savings account, it's 185%, not 500%. And as I was discussing with Senator West, I don't think it would be controversial to suppose that the demographics of the average family with a 500% FPL, federal poverty rate income level, is different than the demographics of a family at 185% of the federal poverty level, which equals about $55,000. I don't think there's racist intentions to the bill, but there may well be racial effects that are bad for our society. And finally, although this bill, I think very certainly won't take down the public education system, I hope we all still value the public education system. I'm certain most of us do. I think it might be fair to say that at the point at which this truly becomes a program about school choice, where some significant number of our public school parents and our public school students are making the choice to leave the public schools to the private schools. At the moment it's really about school choice, that's when it really destroys the public education system. Because if we have half of our kids leave our public schools, they will crumble and they will fall. And I don't want to see that happen, so I will oppose this bill. Thank you, Mr. President and members.
Senator Miles, you're recognized for what purpose?